the other night. So I mean, you must have been in a
I
long
have been
recovery.
celebrating for days. I'm in the recovery like I have a high ankle sprain.
I know, man. You did. I will give you credit. You did call the Suns beating the Lakers. Well, actually winning the finals. So I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean when you're an expert, you're an expert.
hmm, the jury's still out on that. So we'll see. You know,
I will
it's
tell you tonight. This one, that's all we have to talk about. I dropped enough knowledge today.
okay. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into all the NBA talk. We'll get into some card talk. Talk a little bit of NFL and some MLB action. But let's dig right into the NBA, man. Let's talk about last night's games. We had Damian Lillard going off. First, the Nuggets wasn't enough because Jokic was showing why he is the MVP. And man, I just watching the Nuggets game overall. I mean, the ball movement was just incredible. The, I mean, man, just that team is just a complete team versus Portland, who needs Damian Lillard to literally light him up for 45. And that's the thing is like, even if he scores 40 plus, they could still lose.
Well, that's what's scary is if he has a night where if he goes 11 for 29 or something crazy, like he's going to just they're going to get wrecked by 30 points. They never were close. They led in that game for literally a minute and 26 seconds.
And even even in that time, I mean, the lead as it dissipated really quick.
Yeah.
They the Nuggets. I mean, man, every time the Blazers would even answer with like two shots, the Nuggets would just go right back up by 10. It was they never even had a chance to make that game even close. And with Jokic, man, just watching him play, like it's really fun because it kind of sort of reminds you. I'm not saying he's Tim Duncan, but like the passing ability and stuff on like how he kind of does it. Then he does some of these moves. It's sort of Duncan like because he's just like he has these fundamentals down, and it's really fun to watch him.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to see a big man that has the ability to play the minutes he does and have that cardio. I mean, he takes some really hard hits too. I mean, he gets
Yeah.
fouled hard. Um, and it's interesting to see the difference between him and like some other guys that when they get hit fall to the ground like they got shot. Um,
Do you mean like like Trey Young when he got hit the other night? Oh my God.
eh, hey, Trey went off. Trey looked fantastic.
Was great. I just that foul at the end. That was
Sometimes you got to try to get a technical, man. You got to try to pick up that extra shot in the ball.
I just don't understand the refs, man. I mean, that kind of call, you can't make that at the end in a playoff game. You just can't. But I mean,
There's a lot of impact that the refs have had in these closer games. These single fouls can change everything.
yeah, and it's a negative showing on the league. I don't want to
Hmm.
watch it when it's like that. It doesn't make a game fun. And where are you at? You know, when you're watching a game and it's in crunch time, final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and it takes 30 minutes to almost finish the game, is that fun to you?
Yeah, I hate it. I hate everything about it. But in the same breath, like if a guy is having his shot impacted, you've got to call it.
Of
But in the
course.
same breath, like it's if I feel like it should be however the game has been called throughout the entire rest of the 3.5 plus quarters. So if they've been letting them play a little more, I don't think at the end you can tighten that. I think at the end of the day, like the game flow should matter. I mean, if a guy fully just gets hacked in the head or poked in the eye, obviously you got to call something. But
Right, but like a foul, like what happened on Trey Young, it's just like that's something where you just gotta let it play and not call that because it's really just distasteful for fans to watch.
yeah,
But
I agree.
yeah, man, we'll talk about that game here in a second. Let's get back to Portland Nuggets. I mean, man, Jokic like, proven why he's most likely going to win the MVP. Not saying it's been announced yet, but it will be announced here pretty soon. Six man was announced yesterday. But man, it's like, would you hold Jokic cards long term right now? If like you're watching, you like what you see.
Pre-playoffs, I would have 100% said sell because coming off that MVP performance, him getting wrecked in the playoffs would have been bad. After watching him, man, like I honestly believe they're going to win this series. I don't think they're going to have an answer for him. I am getting more impressed with him every game. I honestly thought he was this big out of shape, gonna get wrecked dude. Just that he couldn't handle a 6 game, 7 game run. And after watching him last night, I think he's there.
Yeah, and I think obviously the Jamal Murray injury really affects that team. I think going forward in the next few years, they have a really good team around them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do pull off a championship. I never thought that this Nuggets team could, but with the leap that Jokic has made, I really think that they're going to be around like Dirk and the Mavs were in that 2000s part where they came really close to winning a finals, getting to the finals. I think that the Nuggets will have that kind of impact in the coming years.
You're right. I mean, how many more points do they score a game? It's 20 plus, right? I mean,
Yeah, Brandon, I lost you there for a moment, man.
okay. I said, can you imagine if they did have Jamal Murray back right now? Like, I mean, anytime Joker gets double teamed, they can kick out to him for all practical purposes and pick up an extra 20 points.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you lost a 20-point scorer there, and a guy who was fearless in the playoffs last year. Having having him there, it makes the biggest difference. But still, I think Denver's going to move on and beat Portland. Like I
Yeah.
said, Portland, something's going to have to happen with that team. I mean, I'm not going to say anything just yet because Dame Lillard could surprise us and they could pull out the next three. So I don't want to jump the gun on it yet. But if then Portland loses a series, something's going to have to happen with that team. Like McCollum getting traded this offseason. I would.
Well, the other issue I think particular series is Dame went off for a career game. I mean, he looked like Steph out there. And what sucks for him because he's always going to get compared to Steph because they have a similar shot style. But in the same breath, like he goes off for a career game and it was never close. So he has to play even above that. Like he has to do more than that. I mean, how? How? Like, what more could the guy have done?
That's why he just doesn't have that supporting cast around him. I mean, Nurkic looks better than what they had last year in the playoffs. I think Cantor playing, but it's like Carmelo would need to play smarter too. That flagrant foul last night was
That flagrant was bad, bad.
just
I was kind of surprised to see Joker go to the ground on that one though, because I mean, it didn't seem like it was that big of a shove, but it
yeah,
was a shove.
but just not a smart foul by
Uh-uh.
Carmelo. Just that. So I'm hinting at. It's like you're going to need your players to play much smarter than that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Portland just come out and win game two. Just
I
it's
don't
just
know.
what this one's you're gonna have to let the series play out on that one before you actually make any judgments on it.
I'll say this: if the Nuggets come out and win the next game, I think they will take the series.
Uh,
I do.
oh yeah, yeah. I don't think there's any coming back from down 2-1, especially they could potentially finish that off in Denver. That's
Hmm.
that. Let's go on to the next game from yesterday, man. We had the Bucks go up 2-0 on the Heat, hit 15 threes in the first half. Giannis is not playing around with the Heat this year. After being last year, it's going out with a little bit of a vengeance.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I honestly was watching that game and was just like, are they going to score 200 points? Like, is this real life?
Everything was going on. I mean, that it was like watching, the Warriors out there a little bit. Just every three was just falling.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I mean, Giannis continues to impress. His deep ball shots improved this year, which I think is really interesting because he's no longer just a post you up guy. He's a threat from three now.
Yeah, he's a bit of a threat. He's still not the guy that you want him to be, that you thought he could be at this point in his career now. Being in, I think, year 8 of his career, just with Giannis. And I think the biggest thing for him is just to win the series and move forward. That's what people want to see is him go to the finals.
Yeah.
Do you think the Bucks have a path to the finals? Like, or do you still think Brooklyn's the favorite?
I mean, honestly, I think Brooklyn didn't look that great either the other day. I mean, to
The,
me, I'm a Brooklyn hater though. I don't believe in that team. Like I want to see them lose. I truly, truly just do not care for a single player on that team. Um, so I mean, if I have to put my hierarchy, it's like Lakers lose and then like the Nets lose,
oh,
and
okay.
I'm happy. Like I'm a hater on both of them, honestly. So from a talent standpoint, I think they have the talent to have a path to the finals, but I just think that the Nets are going to be probably too strong for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, we're overlooking the Sixers here, but the Sixers, I'm not convinced that they could win. Even make it to the finals, but even win in the conference finals, I just don't see it happening. But with the Bucks, I think the Bucks are the best all around team in the East. I think they've played with each other all year. I just think Giannis is also the best player in the East too, and I'm saying that over KD.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big KD guy anymore, but I also could see it's such a tough series because, like, say they do end up facing off, either one of those teams could play, right? I mean,
Oh, of course, but
it's just going to depend on which Nets show up too.
yeah, and we'll get to the Celtics net series. Celtics they were up in the first half on the next in game one, game two tonight, and but the Nets, the thing is like Harden shot bad, Kyrie shot bad, Durant was the only one consistent. Durant goes off in the second half, and Kyrie and Harden they turn it on, and the Celtics had no answer. They
Yeah,
outside of Tatum, they have no answer. They need Tatum to do what he did in the play-in, and
yeah, they're gonna get wrecked. I mean, I think it's just reality. The Celtics are gonna get wrecked.
and,
Um,
I think the Celtics. I think they're gonna get swept. Possibly, maybe they win one game, but I just think with Brooklyn, even though they haven't played with each other all year, they're gonna cruise through it. I think where Brooklyn's going to get put to the test is when they have to play the Bucks,
yeah.
and I think the Bucks could upset that team. I really do.
I also see that being a really highly physical game, so whichever team comes out of that is also going to be a little beat up. But I think that could be interesting, especially if that goes to like an entire series.
Right? Yeah.
If they play 7 games or even 6, that's going to be tough as a tough out. I mean, none of those teams are easy outs.
Yeah. And the Nets' third best player, Harden, or I mean, whatever second best player is want to call him, but he in the playoffs, the guy hasn't showed up, man. And like, if you're going to depend on him in a crucial series against another great team that could easily beat you, like my money would be on the Nets in that situation.
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't care for the team, but I do think that they're going to be tough, and I do think that Giannis is going to continue to outperform. I feel like he's one piece away still, though. Like if he had one more guy, I don't know what it is. Like I feel like if they had one more just killer shooter, if they had Dame Lillard on their team, they win the whole thing.
Yeah, of course, and you're comparing, you're giving him one of the best 10 players in basketball, but
But I mean, that's the team that the Nets have, isn't it? I mean, realistically, do they
yeah,
have 3 top 20? They have 3 top 20 guys, right?
of course, but I think that the Nets have a better just overall round team that's played with each other all year. That's or not the Nets, the Bucks.
Hmm.
I think the Bucks are going to go to the finals. I just still think that they are the best complete team to do it, and I think Giannis is going to prove it this year. I would put my money on the Bucks to actually go over the Nets. I just don't. I just think Brooklyn. I just think with the injuries they've had, I think one of those guys gets hurt. Like they've
So,
had these injuries all year, and just to see them healthy through the playoffs will be something to see.
so let's jump the coast for a second. So you still believe that the Lakers are going to the finals even those are getting swept by the Suns. So do you believe that the Nets or the Bucks have a better chance to actually out the Lakers if they end up in the finals against each other? Like, who's your pick there? Who do you want to see face the Lakers
Well,
because you think they're an easier out?
I think what the league and what everybody wants to see is Kevin Durant versus LeBron James. I mean, that's what everyone wants to see. And, obviously the league not suspending LeBron after he broke protocol. I don't know what happened there, but I think if that's any other player, they might get suspended or something. But anyways,
100%. Other players have had to sit.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly believe he could test positive for COVID, and they would somehow figure out a way to put him on the floor.
Yeah,
They'd put him in a spacesuit and let him play. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I mean, again, like, if you're on the other, I don't know. I said the other day after they didn't suspend him, if I'm on the other team, they should have just said they're not coming out because they're scared of their health risk, and so they sit him. He needs to be out of the building. Like, honestly, if it was any other player.
I mean, following the protocol, I mean, it's definitely something that, I mean, I'm just shocked, not shocked that the league didn't do anything about it, of course. But anyways, back to the Lakers Suns. I think that you think the Suns are going to sweep them. I think you're crazy. I think the Lakers are still going to come out and win in 6. I think what you're going to see tonight is the Lakers just coming out loaded. I think LeBron's going to have like 40 points, and they're just not going to stop him. I know you say where's the answer for Booker? Where's the answer for LeBron, and where's the answer for AD? AD is not going to play as bad as he did in Game 1. I'm not the biggest AD guy, but I know he's better than what we saw in Game 1. And
I think they both 100%. And I'm an AD fan. Even though he played for a college team I don't care for. I 100% feel like if the Lakers team that showed up for Game 1 shows up for Game 2, they are going to get wrecked. Because the thing is about the Suns, man, they're young and they're exciting and they're fast, and there's nothing I saw in that Lakers team that looked anywhere near the level of talent that they have. They looked flat as could be.
No,
they were slow. They were not getting back on defense. AD was getting handled by a guy that should never handle him. Ayton is garbage, honestly. Ayton is garbage. And he was handling AD.
No, yeah, he was getting rebounds. He was doing all that.
Yeah.
The second chance.
Every single stat line. He looked like AD. Like, if you would have flipped the stats and showed it on ESPN, people would have been like, that makes sense. Right. And instead, it was like this dude that's just sloppy. Like, because AD is just so much better than he played. Like, but I've seen that a couple times this year with the Lakers. Like, they just have not played to form, and I don't know if it's still injury play. I don't know if it's.
Well, you just got to remember too that this, like, LeBron's he's only been back like really 5 games since his injury, where he re-aggravated it and then sat out another few games. So he's really still playing into form with this team. So although I know they're practicing together and stuff like that, I still think as the playoffs go along, I think the Lakers just get better and they will get back to the finals that way. I just don't think that Suns can handle them.
Well, let's also talk about, CP3 did have his shoulder touched and fell to the ground like he got shot. And I was happy he was able to play through a devastating injury of having his shoulder grazed.
That was such a weird injury.
That poor guy had his shoulder grazed. He came out like a champion. A champion!
I mean, Chris Paul, like, when I saw him drop to the floor, first of all, of course, Chris Paul getting hurt in the playoffs. What's new? Every time, he's always hurt in the playoffs. It's like he can play healthy a whole season. And once the playoffs begin, it's like something turns on in his body where it's like, oh, we need to come up with an injury. But man, Chris Paul, I don't think he will. I mean, I think he plays Game 2, of course, and I think he'll be at full capacity. I just have no idea what kind of injury that was, and I haven't really heard anything about it since.
It looked like a phantom punch. It looked like one of those punches in boxing where a guy gets knocked out but didn't actually get hit. And I was sitting there just screaming at the TV because, I may have, in theory, had a little action on the Suns. Of
course.
And just a little. Yeah. I was really not happy. I was happy to see him come back out there, but frankly, I mean this too. I don't think they need him to win. I think Cam Johnson is good enough that they don't even need him to win. Like, I think that Cam Johnson is 100%. I'll say this now. If they do out the Lakers, which again, it's a long shot, but if they do, not Cam Johnson, Jesus. Why do I always confuse those two? Booker. Devin Booker is 100% the playoff MVP.
Yeah, I mean, well, so as make it to the finals, but
But I mean, their hardest out is right now, right? I mean, they're playing their finals right now.
I mean,
Their path is difficult. That whole side is terrible. But
the West is loaded. I mean,
yeah,
even whoever would team in advance, they still have to play. I think the winner of the Mavs and Clippers. So
yeah, and neither of those are easy outs.
No, not at all. And we'll jump ship here from the Lakers Suns, but I still think the Lakers are going to win in 6. That's my prediction. I know you think the Suns are going to win, and I think we should place a wager on that. We'll talk.
Yeah, if they lose tonight, do you still have confidence that they're just going to suddenly become the Lakers?
Because you know why? They have the best player in the world, LeBron James. So that's why.
Oh, I thought you meant the refs. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, the refs. Yeah. The refs did have a big impact on that first half, and the Lakers still lost that game. But
the refs and the league, they've got both.
Yep, that's true. I still think the Lakers come out and win that game, but
even as a Lakers fan, you have to think that LeBron should have been suspended.
No, I think he should have been suspended for a game for sure. You should have to sit down and go through their protocol. I agree, but still, LeBron is the best player in the game, and he's going to improve that tonight. Watch. Next year, let's go to Mavs Clippers, man. Everybody. No one, because this Mavs team is not as good as the one they had last year, but Luka is better than last year, and there's something. I mean, man, I loved it. I love them losing. I'm so glad the Clippers lost because when they stared down. After he got dunked on, I was like, and Paul George, God, guy grew up in the same city I grew up in, and like God, I can't stand him when he does stuff like that because here's a guy who I think comes up with the most excuses ever, like last year, and maybe fatigue did play into it last year or whatever, but I just feel like there's always an excuse with Paul George. There's just always something, and like this guy has come up short in so many games. Like he's like Harden in all respects. Like he's just like him when it comes to it. And so to see him do that and watch them lose, I really hope they lose the series because I mean we could talk about that. The Clippers lose the series. Like what happens with that team? Kawhi is a free agent. He could walk. He could go somewhere else. And do they trade Paul George? I mean, I would. Like. They gave him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole team falls apart.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they can't afford to fall apart because they have no picks. They have Morris on a $64 million contract. Luke Kennard. I mean, I think maybe they possibly unload that contract and trade him somewhere else because he's a good shooter. But they have no picks, man. And I mean, you could get some picks for Paul George, but I don't know how many teams are going to want Paul George. Like for that many picks, like what they end up giving up for him, So it's just interesting. But I think Luka, man, guy is just he is taking a leap again this year. Last year he took the leap. But I think already now like that when that team gets another superstar, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I think they could be insane. I mean, Luka needs, I think, again, one more piece to be devastating. And if they get it, my gosh. I mean...
Well, to be honest, it's only... Like, Luka is the only star on that team. Like, Porzingis is not what he was.
See, I'd actually like to see them unload him.
It's just honestly, hard to with that contract.
I know. But I'd like to see him go and then add another really good big or another good shooter.
Yeah, I want to see them get a secondary player, maybe another big or something. It's that's something maybe we can talk about next week on our next pod. It's like we'll see where they're at and what replacements they could. I still think the Clippers do end up winning the series because they are more talented. They have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George as a sidekick. Kawhi Leonard I still think is the third, fourth best player in basketball, and I think I think they're going to realize that those two guys need to shut him down. I mean, come on. Kawhi is one of the best defenders we've ever seen, and Paul George is another really good quality defender. Like they're gonna have to double team and shut him down, because all they need to do is take Luka out of the game. Once Luka's out of the game, I don't think the Mavs can win.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And the Clippers won't, or the Mavs just don't have any answers on the other floor for Kawhi or Paul George. Just don't. And yeah, and I guess the only thing I would say that the Mavs have over the Clippers, besides Luka, is the fact that I just think that Carlisle is a better coach than Tyronn Lue. I think Tyronn Lue is just
for sure
overrated. I like it when he won the finals. That wasn't his coaching. I thought it was just LeBron and Kyrie. But we'll see on that series, man. Let's pivot from some basketball. Is there anything else that you want to touch up on?
My card on my desk is a basketball card, so we can probably do that.
Yeah. Let's do that. Mine's a
basketball. So again, I've been on the Suns basically all year. Early on, it would be real good for me if they won it all. That said, any Suns rookie card. This is Mr. Jalen Smith. Mr. Smith, who is, very, very good. Maryland was amazing with him. I like any Suns rookie right now because especially if the Suns somehow can defeat the King, I think everyone will have a big microscope on the Suns, including their bench players, and I think there's a pop for everybody that plays on that team. Cam Johnson, I think, is going to have another big pop if they can somehow win, if he can put in some minutes. If the Suns win, all Suns rookie stuff is going to go nuts. Booker stuff should be 3 times the money it is now. Booker is unbelievable.
Booker is unbelievable, but his stuff is already unbelievably high. I
think it should be more. I
don't know, man. It's so high already. It's a hard one to say. Like, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. I love him. I've loved him since he came in the league. I was always high on him. People were saying thinking that he could never turn into more than just a shooter, but I mean, he's obviously proved people wrong. But the
only other player I really actually show your card on your desk because your card on your desk is probably the same team I'm going to talk about. No, it's not.
No, yeah, the card on my desk is the Magic Johnson Auto 2008 Topps Chrome. Likes card. Goes for like $200 on eBay, but
it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool card, It's a Magic. I'll probably unload that here pretty soon. Even though I'm not the biggest Magic Johnson fan, I just, it's cool to have a auto of one of the greatest players to ever play.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I would sell it just because he signs for every product for some reason. Like, he's in everything. Every time we hit an auto and it's a Laker, it's him. I'd say another guy I really like, and this is I wish I would have picked up on this one a week ago. I think Dylan Brooks is one of the best stories of the playoffs. He is an absolute monster for the Grizzlies. That guy looked amazing. Both sides of the ball.
He did, and with him and Ja, they're obviously like the Cinderella story because no one thought what Memphis could do. I will let it play out a few more games. I mean, Brooks, I would get his cards if they're cheap, and you could get them at a good deal. But I'm sure they probably spiked already since that game 1. But
that's what's rough is if you could have picked that before, you would have done really well. That said, if they go on a run, I think his stuff will continue to improve, and it is still pretty cheap.
You know who they should pick up is the guy who's coming back in that game, who's available for game 2, and that's Donovan Mitchell. His stuff is underpriced, and I think Mitchell comes out, and I think that guy lights him up tonight. I really do. Mitchell is one of the best young players in the league. Like, you want to talk about how you think Booker stuff is under? I don't understand Donovan Mitchell's card value, how it's and just underrated of a player he is. Like, I really think people take him for granted. This guy last year in the playoffs, the year before, really turned it up a level. Now that he's coming back, hopefully, again, like I said, They said he's available for game 2, but I really want to see him come out and just light it up.
I got to believe he plays. I mean, if they don't put him in, then I think they've written off this series. I mean, they've
Well,
got to have him.
well, also, and he was pissed that he didn't start game 1, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a playoff game, and Mitchell says
Yep.
if he's cleared and ready to go, put him out there. Like I would
Do you
be
think?
frustrated too.
Do you think that's them underestimating?
No, I think well underestimating the Grizzlies. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Um, I
They're like, we're
think
playing the play-in guys. These are the play-in guys. Like, we're gonna just run through them. We'll just let you rest one more day because we're gonna go beat them by 30.
yeah, I understand they're thinking. They're probably thinking that. They're also thinking, we're gonna need you. You're coming off an injury. We can't afford you to get hurt as the playoffs go on. But Mitchell, who's like I said, who wants to play and is a stud. Like, yeah, he wants to be out there, man. I don't blame the guy. Like,
Yeah.
and,
I
and
mean,
he's a card I would go out and get.
what's interesting is, and I think I'm right in this, 17-18 class, I think, and 100% has Tatum and Mitchell, but I think Dylan Brooks is 17-18 class too.
Maybe it's his
I'm
third.
pretty sure.
I don't know if
I'm
he's
pretty
rookie or
sure.
not. Not 100%.
No, Brooks
But,
Brooks is 17-18 or 15-16. I don't remember.
but
But it's interesting that whole class is kind of showing out in these, 3 years, 4 years.
no, I love it. And Jaws, I mean, of course, the biggest, reason why. And even though his stuff jumped a lot in the last few days, I still I would still go buy his stuff, man. I think I always said that I think he's gonna be much more talented than Zion going forward, just because I think he could add a lot of stuff to his game still.
I really want to see him and Mitchell just both ball out. I think that's good for the hobby. It's interesting to me why Mitchell's never had hobby love. I don't know if it's because where he plays, but I don't know anyone really who collects that guy. No one's super stoked when they hit him.
I mean, I like his stuff. Like I said, I do have a few of his rookie cards. Maybe not as many as I should, but I really like his stuff because, I mean, he's a cheap buy. He's super young and he's on a really good team. And I think a team that's going to be relevant for still a few years to come as long as he's on there. And he's still just super young.
Yeah, it's just tough
Yep.
because again, it's like everyone who I know who does talk about him says the exact same thing you did, which is he's super underpriced. Everyone says he's underpriced while no one's out there just plowing money at him. I don't understand. They'd rather buy Tatum.
Yeah, because I think Tatum has this. Well, he's also plays on the Celtics, and people compare him to Kobe, and he was like that guy. He's the guy in that draft. And then Mitchell's the third guy in that draft, fourth guy. So
The thing that's weird about the hobby, to kind of transition to cards a little bit, I've always told people buy people that have a nickname
yeah,
because it's just, I don't know why it seems like those are your stars. Your bench guy doesn't have a nickname. Your big star has a nickname.
yeah, it's because they're
You
also
know,
stars too.
but I think that's who you invest in. And again, why is Mitchell the spider not bring even close to the value of a Tatum when I don't think Tatum's any closer to a ring than Mitchell? I think Mitchell has a better chance of getting a ring this year than Tatum does.
It's because of the market they play in. Imagine
Yeah.
if Mitchell was in Boston. I mean, you're playing in the second, third biggest market. It's like of course, and you're playing for the Celtics of all places. The
Well, one team we haven't talked about that is very interesting to me is what about the Knicks?
we'll touch on this a little bit. We briefly talked about the whole Trae Young thing. I don't think the Knicks have the firepower. I mean, I think Randall does come out and play better. I think the Knicks do win their game 2. I mean, it was so close. That game literally could have went either way. And
Yeah.
great job by Trae Young. I know we were talking about his play against the refs, but man, that layup, it was so clutch. And he's another player in this playoffs that took him a big leap too. I never thought that Trae Young could be that guy. So that's definitely, I've been wrong about that. But I would like to see that team play. They just have so much more firepower than the Knicks. I mean, it's like with him, Donovich, you have Gallinari and then Collins. It's like that team has just much bigger names than the Knicks do. Although the Knicks, like D Rose is playing well. That's I can't believe that he's been this healthy. It's been fun to watch him again actually.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't think the
So
Knicks have enough to stop them.
yeah, I think they're going to get wrecked, unfortunately, because I like the Knicks. I mean, there's some young talent there, especially with RJ,
I
Emmanuel Quickly. I
I
mean, there's
love
some guys that
quickly.
I
Yeah,
think, yeah, I think there's some dudes that are going to be good long-term dudes.
yeah.
Um, who is your buy of the playoffs after what you've seen so far? If you had to, let's just play this game. If you had to take $1,000 and buy a guy, and it can't be a top tier star, so it can't be Ja, it can't be LeBron. Who has shown you something in the first couple games or first game that has made you want to go out and buy his stuff?
Does that include Mitchell? Because I mean, you're
I mean,
talking
he
about
hasn't played, so he hasn't played. So how can you? I'm saying that based on performance.
based on performance as of right now. You know, God, man, it's just because that's the thing is I don't like betting. I don't like going out and get somebody right away in the playoffs unless like it's going to be a short thing. I just for like a long term hold, like I would get the guys that we just talked about, Mitchell and Jaw, like just because
Who's your quick flip based on the last two games performance?
quick
Because
flip.
I've got a sleeper.
I guess it would have been Brooks. Coming to Memphis because his cards are still cheaper, and if they win that series, that'd be a bigger thing. But
I like him, and I got one more for you.
go for
Desmond Bain.
it.
Desmond
Oh
Bain
God, man.
he's looked really good,
Yeah,
and he's put in some buckets that actually mattered. He had a pretty solidifying dunk the other night to close out the game up 5 with no time left.
I mean, I won't touch his cards. If they're
I like it. They're so cheap. They're so cheap.
yeah,
Like honestly, could his stuff go from $5 to $10? Yeah. Again, when we talk about investments, like you don't have to buy a $300 card to make it go to 6. You can buy $5 cards and buy 50 of them. And if they go to 10, you're in a good spot. I think Bain. Think about this: if they somehow go on a run, there's people who've never even heard of this kid,
yeah.
and
I
if he somehow can hit a game winner, you're telling me you don't think you could double your money? Like I think it's an easy win.
you know I don't know. I'm just not into buying players like that. Unless they're like more like I'm just a fan of them. I just like players I have no interest in that I don't think is going to be doing good long term. Like someone I could hold for a year. I understand the quick flip thing. That's just not my game. Like I'm going to hold and expect. I'll take a loss, whatever. A guy who is probably just undervalued right now and just overlooked is I would just say Ben Simmons, man. Ben Simmons.
It's tough, man.
And
He's so brutal in the hobby. He's so brutal.
yeah, he is. But the Sixers, I know we talked about the East is completely wide open. I would not
Yeah.
be surprised if the Bucks, the Bucks, because the thing about it, I think the Sixers are going to avoid them. If it comes down to it, they avoid them and they play the bottom tier seed. So it's like it would be just more interesting because the Sixers could make the conference finals and they maybe have a shot at the finals. And Ben Simmons is going to have actually be an important part of it, regardless if Tobias Harris ends up turning into a 30-point scorer in the playoffs. I would be amazed if he continued that. But I think Ben Simmons is going to go off at least one or two of these games, and his stuff is down. But if they could have a chance to make the finals, I would go in with Ben Simmons. If you're asking me.
So this is the thing that's tough about Simmons, and this is kind of hobby related. So Simmons, before his first cards got made, signed an exclusive deal with Upper Deck. And we were all excited in the card industry, especially us who owned shops at the time, for Simmons autographs. Simmons rookie autos were going to be massive. I don't know if you follow Ben Simmons cards that often. He only has Upper Deck autographs, which means he is in Goodwin Champions and any kind of weird Upper Deck specialty product they may put out. But Ben Simmons does not have a rookie auto in NT. He does not have a rookie auto in Flawless. He does not have any autographs with Panini at all because they do not have the licensing rights to him. He signed an exclusive with Upper Deck. It murdered his card value. Now, his really rare rookie stuff when he first came out was still massive money, like his Flawless Diamond numbered to 10. Like they were bringing stupid numbers.
Right.
But the fact that he doesn't have a rookie auto or a rookie patch auto, honestly, I think he lost a lot of the collectors when that happened. Like no one's out here buying up his base rookie cards. Like it really hurt him.
Yeah, and I understand that, because there's less to go around. But if he could make a leap and do some stuff in the playoffs, like those cards are going to see a spike since they're so scarce. So you will see that. So I think although you are right on certain things, it's just if you can't buy his stuff cheap and there's not more out there, then people aren't going to go out there and try to spend top dollar on certain cards. But I would still go after one of his cards, maybe a PSA 9 and 10 rookie of his, for a few $100 and try to sit on it and flip it, because I still think he's relevant and he was the guy in his draft. I think he came out of the 2016-17 draft. But yeah, I think
he was the only guy in that draft.
Right, yeah.
Which is what murdered us that had shops back then, because it's like if he would have had autos, we would have sold so much more product. But when guys couldn't hit anything of him, like it was so rough. I mean, I remember selling boxes of 16, 17 for nothing. Like there was nothing to hit.
Yeah, especially if Zion did that. It's like, oh my god.
Oh.
Yeah,
and there was talks that Upper Deck was going to try to sign Zion. If they would have, it would have murdered the hobby. Like that's one thing I said to a guy yesterday, because we ran a break that had a full size autographed Zion framed jersey in it, and the guy came and picked it up that hit it, and I told him, I said, you know what, man, because he was like, why didn't you keep this? I was like, I really don't have any wall space. Like my office, every single inch of my walls is covered in memorabilia. And I said, you know what though, if I would have kept it, I would have liked to, just because that guy has made me more money in this hobby than any other player of all time. Because the spike he created the spike. The hype behind him, again, as a card shop owner, we went from being able to make, 30% on a box to making 800% on boxes.
Yeah.
He put a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets, and, regardless if you think he's the GOAT or the next guy, it doesn't really matter. He's the GOAT in the hobby.
Yeah, no, he was his stuff. I mean, like I said, I could only compare him to one other person for coming out of school, and that's LeBron, for how much hype that guy had, for the last 2 years. I mean, they were filming his high school stuff on ESPN.
Well, I would even argue he had more than LeBron. Like they were, because again, social's so much more impactful now.
Of course.
It's just like, yeah, he had hype, but I think he had more hype even than LeBron.
Yeah.
He was on Good Morning America dunking over cars and stuff. The guy had all the hype in the world, Zion, that is.
Yeah, no, look, Zion, social media, exposes, all these people so much, so everyone could get access to them just from turning on their phone. So it's a big difference between 2003 and 2019 now. Let's move on. Go ahead.
Real quickly, I think that's another reason like guys like LaMelo were going to stay very hobby relevant, even if they end up being not super relevant in the league as far as the team sucks. Which I don't think the Hornets are that bad, but either way, their social media impact is so high. Like his view count is so massive. He can put up a shot of him jumping off of a balcony into a swimming pool, and he's getting 4 million views. Like, right. It's unreal the reach this kid has. And again, what's that look like in 4 years?
Yeah, it's a great point, because even if he's, the thing is like when they're successful, like he's gonna be rookie of the year, of course, like it's a big change for him. But it's just social media brings these guys tips. So that's why it feels a lot more personable, and that's why basketball is just so much bigger than baseball. What we're about to talk next, especially in the hobby. Modern baseball is just, you have Vlad Jr. right now. He hit his 14th and 15th bomb yesterday. Absolute killed the ball. and he tied Acuna 50, for their 15th home run in the league. And Vlad Jr. was someone who you could have gotten in the offseason super cheap. I got some of his PS10 base Topps Chromes, and they're sitting at over like about at $175 to $200 now.
Mm-hmm.
And those are great cards, but it's like Vlad, is a guy who could possibly go on and win the MVP. He's hitting like 330, I think, right now, and just on a team that in that division is the toughest in baseball, hands down. I mean, the Rays,
for sure.
we talked about this earlier. They pulled off 11 in a row. The Yankees have caught fire after starting off terrible. The Red Sox are, I don't know how they're relevant, but they somehow are. And then you have the Blue Jays with fourth. They spent a lot of money, but Vlad Jr. has turned back into form, and he was that guy that everyone was banking on in 2019.
Yeah, in 2019, I literally said that the Blue Jays would win a World Series inside of 3 years because it's not just Vlad. I mean, no. I'm a big Bo Bichette fan, They have a lot of young talent, and I think that they could develop into a team. I'd say another team making some serious news is my Cardinals. My God. They look okay. They look okay.
They got my guy, Nolan. Big Nolan.
They look all right. Pujols has looked good at the Dodgers, too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have kind of looked good. But right now, if I'm holding Pujols, I'm selling. And if I'm holding any excuse me. If I'm holding any Judge stuff, I'm selling right now.
Yeah, Judge is someone who I would definitely sell right now. Pujols is going to be a Hall of Famer, so you don't have to sell him right away, I don't think, in my opinion.
I just don't know what more hype you get out of him than him coming out, taking a team like the Dodgers and just, bang, home run right away. Like, I don't know. I just think he's relevant right now. You weren't buying Pujols a month or 2 months ago. You know what I mean? Like when he was hitting 160. Like you might have been.
I was, but because he's a Hall of Famer.
But what are you going to do? You're going to wait 5 more years to sell? Why would you not sell now while he's hot?
No, because I think as soon as he makes his retirement, that his stuff's going to pop.
Yeah, I mean it could.
I mean he's the best hitter of the last 20 years. I mean, and who knows? He comes back maybe next year and tries to chase 7 home runs. I don't know. And I mean,
I hope he does.
If he does that, then sitting on these cards is not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think someone like Vlad, whose cards were down, this guy can make a major impact. And with Toronto, I don't think they could do it because they don't have the pitching yet. But inside the next 2 years, I mean, they have George Springer. I think they are still a pitcher away. They need to go out and get somebody else to solidify the lineup. Hyun-Jin Ryu is not going to be the ace of that lineup. I mean, I guess if you could do it in any sport, it will be baseball. With they catch fire at the right time. I just don't see the Blue Jays being able to compete against the Rays, against the Red Sox, and against the Yankees this whole year. I mean, the season's still young. I mean, we're only 42 games in, I think, or something. So, I mean, we still have another 100 games to play, which sounds like a crap ton.
It's a lot of baseball. It's a lot of baseball.
Yeah, and baseball's in this time right now where it's slow. Baseball picks up mid-July around the trade deadline after the All-Star break. But I think that's when the time to buy baseball cards is right now. Although you might think it's down, buy baseball right now because when it gets back in August and September, that's when it's going to pop because football's not on yet. Football's not going to be on until, the second week of September. So, yeah, get some baseball going because even the playoffs then it'd be more relevant.
Who would you buy right now in baseball? Who's your quick flip and who's your long-term hold right now?
My long-term hold is actually Pujols. I have loaded up on his rookie cards, and that's just because I think whether if he stays in the league for another year or announces retirement, I will put those all on up for sale. A guy who, I like for short term is actually your guy on the Cardinals, and that's Nolan Arenado. I think his stuff. I mean, this guy's the best third baseman, man. His numbers. I think he's 8 Gold Gloves. He's ready to win another Gold Glove. His WAR is unbelievable. He's up to 10 home runs, I think. He's been a huge reason why the Cardinals are succeeding. And although he plays in a medium-sized market, I still think the Cardinals are relevant to everybody because they're the Cardinals. They're such an iconic team that when it comes to the playoffs, I really think that he is a guy that go out there. I'll tell you who I will not buy, and that's Francisco Lindor, who has sucked all year, and
Yeah.
is that contract is awful. But
Yep.
but along with just the Mets, and I won't speak long about my Mets. Just so many injuries, man. The team has been decimated by injuries. I mean, they have like four of their starters on the roster right now. It's been really bad. But man, and another guy who's just been off the charts, man, is like I know a lot of people are kind of uh, up and down on selling his cards this season. And that's been Tatis Jr. Man,
Mm.
that I mean, man, he's been hurt. He's been sent to the DL twice, I think. And
Yep.
man, he's come back twice and just hit bombs. That guy,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a big fan on holding these cards so high. I mean, but God, if you go out and get one of his rookie cards and just see where they go if they do make the playoffs, because they are on a trajectory to make the playoffs again. So I would just hold them.
I mean, honestly, he seems like the guy you buy while he's hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I guess if history's shown us anything, he'll go on the 10-day DL again sometime soon.
Yeah, probably next week. But yeah, I like him. I think I've mentioned this before. I used to PC his dad really hard,
Oh yeah,
um, Tatis Senior. So I wish I would have put the money into Junior early that I put into Senior, because I used to buy thousands of dollars worth of Seniors stuff.
man. I mean, yeah, it's just like with him. It's like with him and Acuna, their stuff's so high. I guess Soto's stuff is down, but now that he's back and now the Nationals are starting to win some more games, they're improving, and Soto's hit a few homers since then. And it's his stuff has popped back up actually. Than I last looked on some of his rookie stuff, but I mean, the Wander Franco should be getting called up soon. Tampa Bay traded I think it was Albies. I think they traded away, and he's gone. Not Albies. I think Avila. God, I don't remember. But they traded away their players, so they're going to call up Wander Franco.
Yeah, Wonder just had a record sale for his Bowman Chrome Red Auto. Did 190,000. First time that any of his cards have ever brought anywhere near that.
Yeah, for like got his golden auctions, right? I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. I
God,
mean, people have been hot on him for years. Like people have been buying his stuff forever.
I mean, I can't say I know enough about him, but man, that's insane.
Number one, number one prospect in baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
And it's just he plays on the Rays. It's just that's my thing about it. It's just he plays on the
Yeah.
Rays.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Jason Dominguez at whatever he is, 19, 18 years old now, for a Yankees uniform eventually, though, than Wander at the Rays.
Yeah, just because you mean from a card value, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, market is everything.
yeah, of course. I mean, with you see Dominguez stuff before the guy even turned 19, selling for as much as it already was.
Huge,
Yeah,
huge.
but yeah, man, not too much else going on really on in baseball. Just injury stuff. Let's talk some NFL, man. NFL rule
Yeah,
in the offseason. Julio Jones, coming out saying he's done in Atlanta. And this is the first time that like Julio will be gone. I think he was drafted part of the like 2010. He was in
yeah,
the
he's been, I think that's exactly right.
he was in the 2010 draft, but man, Julio, who has been one of the top receivers, so close to winning the ring there in 2016, and but still, he's coming off an injury. 32 years old, 3 years, $38 million left on that deal. Some teams that have been rumored to trade for him are the Packers, the Patriots, the Colts. I hope that he ends up on the Colts, and I think they're the most realistic team to trade for him. But I would be shocked if the Patriots traded for him just because of the money that's attached and the fact that I just don't understand. I wouldn't understand the move from a Belichick point of view. Giving up a second round pick, that's just not what Belichick does. But I think the most logical team he goes to is the Colts. And
I'd like to see it.
And I'm making another prediction after the Eagles cut or try to trade away Zach Ertz. I think that he's going to be on the Colts too.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have an opportunity to get pretty stacked. It gets interesting.
That's why I would say go out and buy Carson Wentz. Go get
Oof.
a rookie. I know, man. I know.
Uh,
But, man, if that guy back with his old coach, man, I would go out and buy some of his rookie stuff right now. What was your opinion? Where do you think he goes, Julio Jones?
I mean, I think the Packers to a degree make sense if they're trying to feed Rodgers something to keep him. Like, I can see that being a thing. But I'd like to see him go to the Colts for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think because they have so much salary cap, that's why they could just make a move for him. But the thing is Atlanta wanted a first-round pick around the draft. So now that it's not the draft no more, I think they probably at least want a second-round pick. But sooner or later, they're going to have to make a decision. I don't think they're going to get a second-round pick. I think it's going to end up like the Eagles situation with what they thought they could get with Carson Wentz. They thought they could get a first, and it ended up being falling way under that, getting a second and a third. But, I mean, they're going to have to settle for less, and it's just going to depend on what team is going to go after him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts looked good last year. They had some relevancy.
Well, especially with Phillip Rivers being their starter. They had Phillip Rivers dead in the water, and then they still end up winning 11 games in a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, you could buy a Carson Wentz, a Panini Select PSA 10 for $275 or his Donruss for $100. PSA 10s, it's just his stuff's so cheap right now. I'm actually probably gonna buy some of his stuff after this.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the people that are selling these have taken a big, massive hit.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, man, I not too much else football talk here going on. The Aaron Rodgers stuff came out yesterday. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that. Aaron Rodgers pretty much saying, just touching on the culture problem with the Packers and all this stuff. Again, not taking any ownership for himself. It's all in the Packers. At a certain
point, I wish they would just make the decision what's happening with him. He's getting a lot more TV time than he needs.
Well, they're still waiting for June 1st, so this time next week, they can make some decisions, and I'm sure after yesterday, it's like they have to be like, okay, what can we get for this guy?
What's your gut? Does he stay?
Oh no, I've thought he's actually no, I lied. I think 2 weeks ago I thought he'd stay. Yeah. Now after watching this press conference, I just think the Packers are like, we got a guy who could potentially be a starter. We could get 4 first-round draft picks for this guy, and why not? Let's just do it. And we don't have to pay him until his 40s. Like, just get rid of him. I wouldn't trade him to Denver though. I trade him to the Raiders.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I would not let him go to a place that he wants to. I'm like, no, we're trading you to the Raiders.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to go to the Raiders, but I would just, take your chances with John Gruden and Mayock.
Yeah.
Who I just have no faith in that organization with those two guys at the helm. I mean, their drafting is awful, and Gruden, I just don't think is a good coach.
Yeah, one bit of hobby news that we haven't touched on yet. Nat Turner, president of PSA, has announced that all PSA orders as of 5/18 have now been entered into the system, which means if you've had stuff sitting there for 6 months that still doesn't show received, it now shows received.
And
I'm not sure that that's progress, but hey, we've got the cards typed into the computer.
I mean, it's something, right? And it seems like, from what they said, to try to get stuff pushed out to July, I mean, they seem like they're on track. No.
My vote, no. I mean, I have stuff from September that hasn't gone into phase 1.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I'm going to say right now they are not going to be fully caught up until December. Yep.
That's that is way out there. Do you really think so?
Yep.
Even though that they're not accepting cards.
Because I think the backlog was much worse than they let on.
Okay.
I think it's much worse than they let on.
I
And
I would expect that just because of the fact how hot the hobby was when people were just still sending in their stuff all throughout what mid March. They should close down.
yeah, I mean, I have thousands of cards there, and I'm super small time.
Right. Man.
Thousands of cards.
And if
And
you think,
I'm nobody in the hobby. I mean, I know guys that submitted 50,000 cards every 2 weeks.
wow, yeah, and you only have so many workers, it's like,
Yeah, I think we're honestly for them to be fully caught up, bulk and everything. We're talking December, and the notion that they're just going to open up again and you're just going to be able to send everything you want is not going to be real.
what is the result? I mean, God, is like, what 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 would someone like Beckett, like, who is their next best
Yeah,
competitor, what can they do to get one up on PSA?
to me, the only thing that they could do to take market share would be offer a better service. So it's got to be cheaper with faster guaranteed turnaround times. And right now they can't do that.
Because they're also not cheaper either, right? They're like
Right.
$20 more.
Yeah. Right now.
But has that always been the case?
No. They were the cheaper option for a long time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep. And the turnaround times were better. But again, when a PSA 10 sells for 100K and a Beckett 9.5 gem, which is supposed to be equivalent, sells for 55,000. Like, if you have a card you think can gem, it's like, man, it's almost worth just sending it to PSA and waiting, right? I mean, why would you send it to Beckett? You know,
I
I don't know. It gets really tough.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like it just doesn't make sense that I mean I just can't believe that how much more PSA is valued over Beckett. And
Hmm.
even I mean I'm not saying SGC is on the same level because I know they're not, but like you know their grading services can't be that much better than the others, right?
No, I don't think they are at all. It's just all perspective, and it's all what the hobby accepts as the
Gem.
essentially benchmark. A gem PSA is going to bring significantly more than a Beckett gem.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but that's where the subgrades get interesting because, like, I would rather have a 9.5 Jordan rookie Beckett with a 10 centering than a PSA 10 that may be 60/40 centering.
I mean, to be honest, like,
And for half the money.
yeah.
Like, okay, you got it.
But like, you know how people are saying, oh, just if a Beckett 9 is selling for that much, and like just break it open, send it into PSA, and do that. Is
Yep.
that worth it? Have you done something like that?
I've I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
I have an odd one. So I had a Bird 8081 Magic, a Bird Magic Irving, so the big Bird rookie, and it was a Beckett Vintage Graded 5. And I looked at this card for like 3 days, and I showed it to a bunch of people, and we were all just like, "This thing is massively undergraded." So I cracked it out of the Beckett holder, sent it to PSA. Comes back a PSA 6. So we went up a grade and quite a bit of value.
Right.
So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I still just don't agree. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do this for fun. So I sent it to Beckett again. Comes back that it's trimmed
Oh.
and they won't grade it. So then I sent it back to PSA, thinking at this point it's going to come back a 6. And when it comes back a 6, after all this money I've spent on grading, I can basically break even now if I'm lucky. This son of a gun comes back a PSA 8.
What the heck?
So I went from a 5 to a 6 to a trimmed to an 8. At the point where I got to the 8, I sold it as an 8.
Of course, right? You're like, this thing is not
So,
this better.
two things. One, can you crack stuff and get better grades? Yep. It can go the other way too, but also the inconsistencies in that process are massive.
And it just makes it impossible now to play with that kind of system because the only way you could get a card into PSA is through Express, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's taken a long time still. So I wouldn't do any of that. Honestly, and this comes from as a dealer standpoint, and I've made quite a bit of money grading stuff, and I think it's good for vintage. I wish that modern cards couldn't be graded. I know that that would be bad for the hobby in a lot of ways with people faking patches and all this other stuff, but I just I remember the hobby when graded wasn't a thing, and I liked it better. Me personally.
Well, I mean, yeah, for someone like me who thinks that, I mean, I just can't believe how much the grading stuff really just makes this astronomical difference. It doesn't make
Yeah,
it fun. I mean, it just doesn't. To like,
yeah. I mean, I want to get back to when raw actually is still cool.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, because if it's raw, it's like, oh, it's worthless. It's like, no, that's not
Yeah,
true at all. But
raw is maybe that's the buy though. Maybe it's the thing is great if PSA can open back up and figure this out, and Beckett can get the turnaround and pricing down. Maybe raw is where the action is. But I don't know. I sell raw cards on eBay personally,
yeah,
and I sell stuff that I think can gem, especially right now. Like I'm not grading anything for a really long time, so I don't care. But I guess, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people have this notion too that if you're buying a raw card on eBay, it's probably a PSA 8.
yeah, and that's pretty much it. And that's what people are aiming for. It's like that's the idea in their head, and that's what makes it not fun. Because that's
Yeah,
what there's like, oh, I'm going to send this into PSA and I'm going to sell it for this boatload of money. What stinks, and which I was hoping that when PSA closed, that people are going to just buy and sell more raw cards, you know.
yeah,
But right now, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just loading up on raw cards. I'm just
hmm
whatever. It's like I'm loading up on so much Tom Brady refractor stuff that like when it does open back up, it was like cool. Because I think when Tom Brady retires, that this stuff is just going to pop. And it's like,
yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me.
yeah, yeah,
I
man.
like it. I especially like if you can start going after the numbered stuff, like his refractors numbered to 50 or under
Yeah.
are really good. Like his red
Yeah.
refractors numbered to like 10 and 25. I mean, they're
Hard,
really expensive though.
hard. Yeah, yeah. No, they are. One that I bought that I really liked is the camo numbered out of 150. It's this 2014,
hmm
2015
Tough
Topps
Chrome.
Chrome. Yeah, it's such a sweet
hmm
card, man. Numbered out of
Yeah.
150, and it's a sick card. I love it. But I got,
Is he throwing in that? Like, is he like
let's see.
pose like he's throwing? I feel like I've seen this card. I just don't
Yeah,
remember.
he's throwing in that card. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and but it's like there's of course there's a lot of his refractor stuff out there, but it's like I just you know slowly buying those cards and just kind of like I think that's like one of my biggest hot buys like for me. But yeah, man, I think you know so I just hope that the raw stuff will pay off, in the end. I think the market will change in a year. I do think that when PSA back in all these places, maybe a new player jumps in the game, and
It's hard,
I know,
man.
I
I don't
know.
foresee it
Well,
because SGC had the chance. They had the opportunity and
yeah,
they blew it.
yeah, they
They
did.
could have grabbed market share and they blew it so bad, man.
They upped their prices instead of. I'm like, I did not understand that play at all. I'm like, you guys are crazy. You're more than Beckett. Like, why would I send my stuff to you guys over Beckett?
To sell it for half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Anyways, let's get into our lifestyle talk of the week, buddy. What's your why would you not for this week?
Mine's pretty simple. It's why would you not wake up at the same time every day and set your circadian rhythm to get up. The point is, if you do this for enough weeks in a row, like eventually you won't even need your alarm clock. You'll wake up at the same time every day.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. It's a military thing, get up at the same time, make your bed, just
hmm
get the routine going because when you have a routine, it makes your life a lot more organized and you get more stuff done.
Well, I definitely know when I sleep in, which is rare, but it does happen. I feel like I'm always behind. Like I feel like my day, I'm always playing catch up. And then it's like by the time, dinner time rolls around, it's like, man, I didn't get everything done I needed to get done today because those 2 hours that I may have slept in, I could have been hammering out my to do list, but I also tend to write a lot of stuff down. Like I have a to do list every day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, man. I slept in Sunday to 9 and I've not done that in like 6 months. And although it felt good because I know my body needed the rest,
Hmm.
I hated it because like I wanted there's like just I wanted to go wash my car early. I wanted to just stuff that I want to do early, and I just didn't do it. But even in that sense, like although I didn't want to make it a negative impact, I just you have to allow yourself. Like I had to allow myself to be okay with it, and not
Yeah.
beat myself up over it. I think that's the other caveat to it. It's like if that does happen, just don't beat yourself up over it. And Zach Blanchard, I know you're watching, and whoever's watching, what's your why would you not for the week? Let us know in the comment section, you guys. And mine for the week is why would you not pick up your dog poop? I stepped in dog poop. I have a dog, and stepping in dog poop is the absolute worst because it smells god awful. And when I pick it up, I know it smells god awful too. But do your civil duty and pick up your dog poop because no one likes stepping in it, especially if you're walking on the sidewalk in a year with COVID where people like to walk around each other. They walk through the grass. And if they step on your dog poop, well, I mean, they don't have to worry about COVID. They have to worry about dog poop on their shoe. And, it sucks, man. I stepped on dog poop this morning and I was completely just flustered. I was like, darn it. Because I was walking my dog in the process. So I'm like, of course, this is lovely. And, yeah, it wasn't. But yeah, man, pick up your dog poop, you guys, if you have dogs. No. Yeah. We'll give you guys another second here, Zach Blanchard, if you're listening, or anybody else want to put in something in the comment section, let us know. Ken, what did you ever own a dog, or do you own a dog?
I do not. I have when I was young. I haven't as an adult.
Do you,
Like I have a 4-year-old that makes enough mess. I don't, I don't have a desire. Plus, for us, like I feel like a dog would just get neglected. Especially when like if breaks are really hot and business is hot. Like I have to carve out time to play with my own kid. Like carving out time to take the dog out and actually give a dog attention. I just feel like it would be not nice for the dog.
yeah, and plus it's like having a kid. It's like
Yep.
all right, man. I think we'll wrap it up here. Great word by Ken. Appreciate your time as always, man. And we'll see everybody
man.
back here next Tuesday, 9 a.m.